Hello and welcome to my podcast series, CPAs Unplugged. Today on the show, we have a very special guest, Verne Bragg, who's a partner at Grant Thornton's. Verne, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
How did you land up here?
I graduated in the mid-'80s, 85 and 86, from the University of Alabama with my undergrad and graduate degrees, and went to work in Tampa, Florida with what was then Coopers and Lybrand. So there's all the way back before the merger with PwC. Spent about 5 years with them in Tampa, and then went to New York and worked with they called it their accounting and SEC practice directorate. And I did that for 2 years and then returned to Tampa through a variety of circumstances, moved over to Orlando in the early 90s and joined Arthur Andersen.
Wow.
And made partner with them in 99, which seemed to be a good idea at the time.
Yeah.
Until the implosion happened not too long after that. So then I joined Grant Thornton in 2002, June of 2002, and have had a wonderful career with GT. Started here again in Orlando as the audit partner, then a partner in charge of the office for a period of time. And I did that up until, I guess, 2015, 2016. We have three wonderful kids. They've all left, moved out of the house, on to college and started their lives. And so my wife and I were empty nesters. And I went to my mentor at the time, who led the U.S. audit practice, and told him, I said, Jeff, I'm fine staying in Orlando. Whatever my highest and best use is, you let me know. And we'll go from there. And Jeff and I knew each other back from Andersen days. And he said, well, if I could put you anywhere, I'd put you in India. I'm like,
wow.
Jeff, you mean Indiana? I mean, I thought we were friends. And so, we talked about our offshore center, which at that point was just in Bangalore. We had about 600 people at the time. And I came over in early 2017. Fell in love with the opportunity. I had other opportunities here on shore, but it would have just been larger or bigger scale of what I was already doing, whereas the opportunity in India was certainly transformational. So I did that up until mid-November of last year, of 23. So almost 7 years, and
wow.
Now rolling back to responsibilities here on shore. But it's been a great ride. I've enjoyed it.
I have a lot of questions. You have a very long career. I want to go back to the 80s, but before I get there, what did you love about India?
Oh man, I tell you, I had no exposure to
How good are you
India.
with spices?
Well, I love the spices. I do now. It took me a while to build up my spice.
If I tell you Disneyland in Orlando versus Rhodes in Bangalore.
Oh, roads and yeah, for sure. No, it's listen, I love the people. I love the diversity. I mean, it's incredible for a country. I mean, obviously, a lot of people, but not a lot of landmass. Just North India, South India, even within some of the particular states, just spectacular. So I really love the people, love the diversity, and I can't say I love the weather in North India, but I love the weather in Bangalore.
Yeah. And what do you think of the accountants in India, the chartered accountants, and so many CPAs?
I think it's untapped potential. We're now just being more and more recognized. I've told our folks, if we can train people to do it in the U.S., there's lots of folks who can be trained to do the same thing in India. Very committed to quality, very committed to wanting to do a good job and be recognized and rewarded for having done a good job. But I've been favorably impressed, overwhelmingly impressed by the quality of our teams there, for sure.
Over this more than 3 decades, that you've been in the profession, in public accounting, what do you think has evolved? And I know.
Wow, I tell you,
what are your top 3 things?
I think.
Do you have computers back then?
Certainly technology, I think, is going to be the biggest area of growth and involvement. When I started in public accounting, we didn't have fax machines, we didn't have computers. So this is before the internet.
How do you work like that?
I know. You used a phone and you had to document things really well. In fact, it was funny. We would mention we had. I mean, I still remember 14-column work papers, and it was really hard work. Then it was 21-column work paper with colored review notes on it. I mean, it was kind of work of art actually. But
Wow.
clearly that the role of technology has changed. Or the impact of technology has certainly grown and improved the profession quite a bit, and making things more efficient, providing folks who come into the profession with more meaningful work. I think even now folks are concerned about, what about now AI, or jobs going to go away? We said that all the way back when laptops came out. So, one of my favorite stories was on back when faxes first came out. They were thermal, right? And so I was working in Florida at the time. I think I was a senior. And so I'd gotten a memo, a really important memo, faxed to us from our national office. And so I got the memo, printed it, or got it off the fax machine, put it in my car, went to lunch, met another client for lunch, then had an important meeting with a client with whom the memo was written, went out to the car, and because it was thermal and I was in Florida, it turned totally black. So I'm sitting there with this totally black, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a struggle. So, you learn to adapt a little bit with whatever technology comes along. But the key is that whatever you're using, it has to make what your current job more efficient, more effective, or provide greater insights for your clients. And then, too, it provides more meaningful work for our people.
When we say tech, and of course tech has evolved and tech continues to evolve, how about governance? And you were in Anderson, when the collapse happened.
Yeah.
And,
Anderson is what gave rise to SOX and PCAOB and all of that. That has had a huge impact.
And that actually created a lot of business for CPAs as well.
It did, it did. That was kind of one of the interesting byproduct of that period of time, was the focus on quality and what companies then had to do to up their financial reporting game, and not just focus on the numbers, but to then focus on the processes that gave rise to the numbers. So then you had essentially two opinions, one on the process, one on the numbers. And so that certainly was a dramatic change, almost as dramatic as the 1934 Act itself, which started the auditing profession. So that's been, a big impact as well.
And how about the mindset, right? So, if you go back to the 80s, right, being an accountant was very credible, right? Very, very glamorous, right? You'd be proud that you're a CPA.
Right.
And today when you look at this, right, you look at a lot of Gen Z folks, they're not really excited about accounting. Accounting enrollments are down. CPA numbers are sort of going down year on year. And the question from a mindset perspective or from a positioning standpoint, one of the questions I always ask, and I'm asking this to you as well, how do we make accounting sexy again?
That's a great question. We need a better marketing team in terms of accounting. The thing that I've enjoyed about it is certainly it provides you such a great base for whatever you want to do in any endeavor, for sure. But certainly in business, we're the ones who keep score, the business world. And then we know how the score is kept. So whatever you do downstream in your profession, you have that fundamental understanding. My son, who works for us at Grant Thornton in the Charlotte office, I coached him along that as well. He was looking at a couple of different aspects of business, but I encouraged him to at least start in accounting, and then he could move on to something else. But he's stayed with us up to this point, so that's neat. And then my youngest daughter, who again, she's a physician assistant in Birmingham at UAB, and she's doing life-saving procedures on these patients, and she has these incredible stories of they flatline, and she has a Met call and crash carts and all this stuff. And yet, when she needs help balancing her budget, it's like I become a wizard. She can bring somebody back to life, but I can, help her with her checkbook. So, even just the dailiness of life, I think that accounting is just a real fabulous place to start. And I think, too, right now, it's a particular benefit that there is a shortage. I mean, for the students coming out, we're having to be very innovative in where we look for folks and bring people on board. Reminds me when I started in public accounting in that first year, it was 85, 86, when I know Florida was one, and I think it was Arizona and Hawaii enacted that fifth-year program, the 150-hour requirement. And for that first year, they had nobody had that. And so we came out, there was a shortage, and, we could write our own ticket. And that's kind of where the profession is right now for the folks coming out. With the market economy, it'll level out. We see what's happening with tech hiring, massive layoffs in tech, for sure. And in accounting, not so much. A little bit in advisory, but for our audit and tax professionals, very steady for sure.
So now, when you look at the accountant shortage, right, one of the major solutions that we've seen across the public accounting firms and even industry for that matter is outsourcing, right? It's setting up shop, and typically India is the favorite destination because you have a very large and a very talented accounting pool there.
Right.
And you set up, you were very instrumental in scaling up GT Indus.
Yeah.
So tell us more, right? When you did GT Indus, what was the biggest incentive? Was the biggest incentive the shortage of talent, or was it cost savings, cost arbitrage that you have, or a combination of both? And what was going on, in your mind and in the leadership when you decided to sort of start it and then scale it up? Let's say you scale it from 600 to more than 2,000.
Yeah.
So what is going on, and what are the challenges that you faced when you brought about?
Well, so we just celebrated our 10th year at Indus, GT Indus. And so I came on about 6 years ago, so we had been almost 7, so 3.5, 4 years. We had started principally in tax, then we expanded to audit and advisory. And as you said, over that period of time, we grew from about 600 folks to now we're 2,500 or over 2,000. Was certainly not a seamless journey, but the benefits, so you asked about that. Clearly labor arbitrage is part of it, but access to labor is certainly critical and has been a big part of our value proposition. Also, quality or standardization is something that when you're able to concentrate a lot of work that's being done in the U.S., we have about almost 50 offices. When each office is doing something, might be subtly done differently. When you bring that offshore, you're able to drive not only consistency, but efficiencies even through that process. So all of that, so that, access to labor arbitrage, and then efficiencies all made sense. But then the challenge is just in the change management to make that happen. It's a lot easier to walk down the hall or sit in a room with some of your folks and get the work done that way. To coordinate with folks from India, they're 9.5 hours ahead, 13,000 miles away. You have to structure, you have to plan a whole lot better. But having said that, the benefits have been amazing, and I think and will continue to be.
So when I look at it from a Miles perspective, when we started Miles, that was a focus, right? So we saw a lot of accounting work, especially from the US, coming into India, and we knew that India needs a lot of CPAs because again, for audit, for tax, you want reviewers, you want managers there, and of course CPAs plus also training on US tax, US audit, and so on and so forth. Right, and one of the things that we worked on was augment and be the source of talent to all the public accounting firms who are outsourcing at scale into India, who still are outsourcing at scale.
Right.
The last few years, one of the things that we've done to complement, to forward integrate that model, is also provide an opportunity for Indian accountants to come into the US.
Right.
Sort of like the tech industry in a lot of ways, right? So you have a lot of tech projects, going into India, but you also have engineers from India coming and working in the US. They sort of become flag bearers of, let's say, Indian engineering talent or Indian tech talent, and now we try to look at the same thing for Indian accountants, trying to be the flag bearers and sort of have this integration deeper. What do you think?
Listen, I think what you've done with your business model and kind of take that next step, I think it's brilliant. I think it's the right time. I think the U.S. is a great market for that. With what you're doing to bring folks over and teaming up with a number of universities on shore to tweak their fifth year to the STEM aspect, I think that's great. And then you already have the visa already worked out, kind of baked into the program.
Absolutely.
I think that's fantastic, and I think too, as your teams look at, they'll have more and more options as that model matures on shore. I think Grant Thornton is a great place for them to find a home. Like I said, with our Indus team growing from 600 to over 2,000, it's now about 25% of our U.S. workforce. And so everyone on shore has been working with teams from India. Even as part of Indus, we call rotators and secondis. So the secondis are the folks that come over from India to the U.S. for a period of months. And our rotators are folks that come from U.S. and go over to India for a period of months. And in that time, what they're doing is building relationships, cross-cultural. And so when your future Miles candidates and Grant Thornton hires from the Miles program come in to work for us, it's not as though they're having to break new ground. Almost a vast majority of everyone that they will be working with at Grant Thornton, has already worked with folks from India. So it's going to be, really seamless for them to be able to come on board at Grant Thornton. But I think your model is certainly with a shortage of folks in the U.S., and it does provide folks an opportunity to come to the U.S. With a job. And, it's not easy. They've got to work hard to make it happen. But I think it's brilliant.
So one of the triggers, one of the secret sauces here, Verne, was STEM in accounting, right? So, so the reason why engineers have been doing it for decades is because, let's say, a master's in computer science is a STEM designated program, which allows you a 3-year work opportunity on your F1 student visa. Now, accounting traditionally, or rather even today, is designated as non-STEM, right? No tech here. And we said that's not true. There's so much of tech in accounting, and that's why we started working with universities in terms of creating curriculums where you have accounting, let's say data analytics, accounting information systems, all baked into one. So it sort of become, let's say, a master's in accounting and analytics, which allows Indian accountants the same 3-year work opportunity like engineers.
Yeah.
What do you think of STEM in accounting? What do you think of technology in accounting? And of course, you spoke about that a little bit, how things have evolved. But how do you see this going forward?
I think that's a brilliant aspect of what you're doing, bringing that to the universities to bake in and probably formalize what was already there in pockets and to make it more of a focus of the particular master's program. Obviously, data analytics is huge. And again, what I have said about AI. Just last week at Grant Thornton, we announced the Comply AI. I think I've said that right. Comply AI. It was a venture with Microsoft that we just rolled out that uses generative AI, and it helps businesses with their risk mitigation and also compliance programs, where it taps into the Grant Thornton library of controls and processes and things of that nature. And it helps clients to identify any gaps that they may have in their current processes or to develop new processes that they don't have at all, and all using AI. Well, that's a perfect mirror of what you're doing with the STEM emphasis of the master's program. And so I think that's an area where all accounting firms are having to focus. I'm really proud of what we're doing at Grant Thornton, that we did that. We also have a chief transformation officer, so he and his team are looking at these opportunities. This opportunity at Microsoft, or with Microsoft, would not have come about without their efforts. I think it's where accounting has to go long term. And so, we've come a long way from thermal fax machine printouts and luggable computers and stuff to generative AI. But I think that's really, really important. And I think the program that you're pulling together and pulling universities along to add that is really helpful. And then too, with then the added benefit of your Miles candidates coming out with that at this time, I think is really brilliant.
Now, when we look at the entire solution that we've built, there are three major stakeholders here. One is, of course, the firms, and firms need talent.
Right.
And then you have the universities who's seeing a decline in accounting enrollments. They have empty seats, and they really need good students and candidates.
Absolutely.
And then you have these accountants from India who are really excited about what we call the great American dream.
Yeah.
I know you're born and brought up in the US, but when you sort of talk about the American dream, what is the American dream?
That's a great question. It's going to mean different things to different people. For me, and I think what it will provide your candidates coming over is the opportunity to truly be whatever you want to be. We're not driven by any particular, baggage, history, whatever it might be. It is truly you have an opportunity to write your own path. You're not, even with the way Indian education goes, that, okay, you have to pick a path, be it, medical or science or business or whatever that happens to be, and then it's very hard to get off that path. In the U.S., that's not the case. While you may graduate in something, you can pivot to do something very different and pursue your dream. And I think it's something that you have an opportunity to define within yourself, and that our system of both education, but even just the marketplace, allows you the opportunity to create value in however you determine that to be.
And sort of connecting that to what you said a while back, right? Accounting is a good starting point for anything you want to do in the business world.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about some instances? You've been an auditor for so many years.
Yeah.
How does being an auditor help you understand business?
Yeah.
Of course, you need to understand business, but how does it give you that business perspective, or you're always that outsider trying to find?
Yeah. No. I think, let's take, for instance, sales. And even, one of the industries that I focused on a lot was the timeshare industry. Having a numbers background helps you understand the sales incentives and programs, and then as a salesperson to be able to understand where you need to focus your efforts to get the numerical outcome, in this case commissions or whatever, that you want. But having that, fundamental understanding of business, you have a big leg up on anyone else. And then two, I think if you look at the path to COOs and CEOs, while, focus on markets is really important, I think for sure the focus in accounting on processes, fundamental processes, bringing those processes in, is really foundational to whether you want to go into the marketing track or more into the CEO track. So I think that, again, really provides anyone coming through the accounting schools and coming out with a program, the CPA path, really has a great foundation in whatever it is you want to pursue long term.
Amazing. So what we're going to do a rapid fire now.
Oh boy.
So let's start. Okay. Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee. Definitely. Lots of it.
Early bird or night owl?
I'm an early bird, and part of that was being back here and working with my teams in India. Definitely early bird.
What's your favorite vacation destination?
Oh, wow. Mountains or beach. Generally, I just love going on the beach at Hilton Head and relaxing, which is kind of interesting being from Florida. But I love the beaches up at Hilton Head, Key West, South Carolina, that area.
And how much vacationing did you do back in India? What's your favorite cuisine?
Good pasta, spaghetti, meatballs, lasagna, all that very good.
The favorite Indian cuisine? And the chicken biryani or the mutton?
Chicken biryani.
And what else do you love about India?
I think that there's a very family-oriented culture at India that we really don't have so much here in the U.S. And so we have at one of the nice hotels, I think in Bangalore, at one point we went to the Leela there in Bangalore, had a beautiful event, beautiful dinner. In India, we had moms, dads, grandparents. It was just such a wonderful picture of, listen, my plus one happens to be my grandmother or grandfather. That was so sweet.
What is the most challenging task that you had, on yourself when you were scaling up?
That's a great job, man. To develop the teams over there. And so that was the biggest challenge. And, Devlina's going to do a great job, and if I don't send it over, she's not going to be able to meet her goals. And, not as much as I should have. I really should have done more traveling around India than I did when I was there. It's one of those things you always think you're going to have more time. But I was able to do quite a bit, did a lot in the last couple of years. Well, my favorite cuisine is probably Italian. I just love biryani. So many wonderful people. We would have a high performer dinner. And early on, before we'd gotten too large, we would allow our high performers to bring a +1. Well, the +1, anyone in the U.S. would have brought a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a significant other. I mean, I can't imagine anything other than that for a +1 in the U.S. And, when I was sitting there talking to them, they were so invested and so proud of their, grandchild who's worked with Grant Thornton now and has aligned with a wonderful firm and just really special. So really love that part about the culture, and that permeates a lot of other aspects of interacting with our teams in India.
Judy does.
Change management, I think that even though we had a great value proposition, even though we had great teams, we had to work on some measurement things or whatnot, but really it was driving that behavior back on shore that, look, we have folks in India who are doing wonderful work. We just have to do a better job planning ahead, which we don't do a great job doing, and then even coaching, which we do. But as we've now gotten some traction on that, and the more we do the cross-cultural, having folks come over, both U.S. to India and India to U.S., you see those relationships take hold, so that then if they don't send work, it's not that they're letting me down, it's that, oh my goodness, I have her shop, I need to send this stuff over to them, and she's not meeting her goals because I'm not helping her, and so let's be a part of making that happen. So saw some good traction on that, and I think we're in a really good place as we start moving forward. But the early stages of that were, there were a lot of road shows back on shore, going to a lot of offices, showing the value proposition, and then really making a whole lot of phone calls that, all right, you said you were sending, but you're not, so, what's up with that?
Wow. So, and it's been like more than 2 decades since SOX and since you're working in GT.
Yeah.
What's the best part of working in GT?
The variety of your opportunities.
In your case,
I've loved well, first of all, I really like GT Scope, worldwide firm. I really like having the resources. We've got 700 plus offices around the world. Almost 50 offices in the U.S., 10,000 U.S. employees, 75,000 worldwide employees, $2.5 billion of revenue in the U.S., $7.5 billion. Big numbers with B's, and yet I really like. So I like being affiliated with a firm that has a global scope. Has provided me some great opportunities of traveling even before India. And I'm thinking about some of my travel stories, but at any rate, so that's wonderful. But then too, I really like our middle market focus. Even going all the way back to my time at Cooper's. When Cooper started, I went into school with this big 8, came out of the school as big 6 and big 5, big 4. We're accountants, right? We can't come up with something other than big. It's all the way big. But Cooper's was focused on middle market clients. And Grant Thornton is also focused on middle market Russell 2000 type clients. And what I find is that provides you a great variety of opportunities to serve your clients. And particularly for younger professionals, you're going to learn a lot more earlier in your career than you will with a firm that focuses on the global 50. You're just going to see a lot more. You're going to be
teams
interacting.
Larger, you specialize.
And you're going to be interacting with decision makers. I remember with one of the clients earlier in my career, we went out to the closing meeting, and here I am as a senior, and the partner and manager were out with me, and we were talking to the client about certain entries, and he was very angry that we were proposing this entries, calling me names that I won't say on this podcast, in front of my partners, and they're not, or partner and manager. I'm looking over them for help. I got nothing. I'm like, thanks, guys. And so, but as I communicated with this, happened to be the CEO. He's very passionate about his views and such. And, this happened to be an AR reserve. I'm like, Les, I understand your point, and you're right. I don't understand your business as well as I do. But I know you've not had collected on these accounts for like a year and a half. So it's evident. Mm-hmm. And what that taught me in interactions like that is you better be prepared, you better be confident, and you better expect some adversity. And it worked out. And I think, like I said, you get that earlier in your career with a firm that focuses on middle market clients, but still middle market clients have global scope. I traveled to Singapore, Germany, France, UK with one client that, had that kind of scope. So great opportunities, but you certainly learn a whole lot about business in general, and it helps you develop a lot as a professional being with that firm. That's one of the things I really enjoy about Grant Thornton for sure.
It's an amazing sweet spot, right, Vern? It's not as big as the big four where you're looking at only the very large clients and not very small. So it's like a perfect spot in between.
Yeah, no, it's.
Do you guys cherish that all the time? Does all of GT cherish?
Absolutely. I think so. I think if we're doing our job, communicating our value proposition to both our people and our new hires. It's just a great sweet spot. I really enjoyed serving, and I've been in that spot my entire career.
Give us one word or one phrase for your leadership style.
Thing that keeps coming to my mind is something I heard a long time ago, is that if they ain't following, you ain't leading, and you're just out for a walk. And I think that, to me, shows I could have great ideas and come up with these wonderful PowerPoints and, could make perfect sense to me. But if you don't persuade and take the time to bring people along, you're not leading. You're just beating people over the head with what you think's a brilliant idea. And then two, you learn as you try to persuade and talk to people that, another phrase I use a lot is none of us is as smart as all of us. It takes, I don't have all the answers in my own head. You got to work with a team and come up with brilliant ideas. Even the name GT Indus, when I first came over, we were just the SSC, the Shared Service Center. Like that, to me, that was just demeaning on the face. Out of the start, we're not dealing with people, dealing with the SSC. And so we wanted to brand ourselves internally, not externally, but internally within GT. And so we needed to come up with a name. And, we came around, so I sat with my management team, okay, we need to come up with a name. And so we're thinking, and someone said, why don't we gamify this and send it out to our people? And, I think we gave whoever the winner would be an iPad or such. And I said, that is absolutely brilliant. And someone had suggested Indus, and obviously it was brilliant.
Indus has got a lot of history.
With the Indus River.
And civilization.
And
thing. And U.S.
Yeah, and then that was the other thing. It's End in U.S. and we're in this together and all of this. It was brilliant. So it really worked well. But again, back to the idea, none of us as smart as all of us. I never would have come up with that in forever. So, and I think that's, again, back to the leadership. You need to take the time to bring people along. You need to validate ideas that are different than yours. And then for sure, make them feel a part of the process. Then the only other thing, there's lots of other points, but one that comes to mind is, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Very basic, we've all heard it, absolutely. But it's so incredibly true. Everybody has a story. Everybody's bringing their story into whatever your particular interaction is for however long you happen to be with them. And you need to be a part of, you're able to team with them for this portion of their journey. And, that always means a lot to me.
One of the favorite traditions that you have here at Grant Thornton?
My favorite tradition at Grant Thornton Indus, for sure, is our experience day. So once a year, and we do it on shore as well, but in India it's to a whole different level. That is an iconic cultural event for our Indus team. We try to schedule leadership trips over at that time so they can experience the music and everything else. So I really enjoy that. Here on shore we also do an experience day that then we team it with some sort of public service given back to the community. And it's time to pull away and celebrate a little bit. And so I really enjoy that.
So if Verne Bragg was not an accountant, what would he be?
That's a great question. I've had a lot of people ask me that from in various settings. I knew I wanted to be an accountant from the time I was a senior in high school. I mean, I took my first accounting test. I scored like 103. Like, all right, this
on
is
a scale of 100.
Yeah, on a scale of 100, had extra credit and whatnot. I would definitely be something in business. I mean, maybe an attorney, but I just love doing what I've been doing. Maybe something in sales. But I'd say, I really have had a blessed career for sure.
Something on your bucket list that you haven't done yet?
I'd like something travel related, and I'm kicking myself for not having done it when I was in India, is go to Australia. My dad, who passed, always wanted to go. I'd love to see New Zealand and Australia. It's just a long way over there, and when you're in India, you're almost about halfway there. But I didn't do that for sure. But that's high on the bucket list.
If you had a superpower, one, what would that be?
Wow. I think an aspiring superpower would be the superpower of connecting with people. Person by person or with a group. Just so that for that moment in time, for that interaction, individual knows, wow, I have his complete attention. He's not worried about anything else. He's listening to what I say. My wife would wish that I do that superpower, express that superpower more often. Life is relationships, and I really think connect more deeply with our team. So that would be a wonderful superpower.
What's your favorite bragging right?
My time in India has been pretty special. To have been able to do that, I'm really pleased with the opportunity that Grant Thornton gave me to do that. Having that growth from, 600 to over 25 or 2,000 people has been awesome. I mean, there's nothing in my background that anyone would have picked me to do that. And yet I've been really proud of that.
As Miles, a lot of our candidate base is Indian accountants, very industrious, very ambitious. A lot of them, of course, work with GT Indus and with all the firms, India or US, back in India. And now we also have a lot of those accountants coming into the US,
Sure.
Trying to live their American dream. Any advice, for these, accountants?
We've talked about this before as well, about this idea of work-life balance. I'd like to throw out an idea, call it work-life integration. Balance is like the scale that's never really just set. You're kind of just bouncing back and forth. Whereas integration is more holistic. And so for folks coming into the profession, there's times you're going to be really, really busy.
Absolutely.
Then there's times you're going to be less busy. I'll tell you, I've had a very rewarding, fulfilling career. I coached my son's soccer team. I went to my daughter's volleyball tournaments. My oldest daughter ran track briefly, and she would go off cross country, so she would start, I'm there waving, and she goes off for 20 minutes. You get on the phone, make a few phone calls, and then, when she's on her way back, you hang up, and, oh, Tori, great job, yeah, good for you. So that's integration. You're there, but you have stuff to do, so you get it done when you have to. And I tell you, accounting, particularly public accounting, and especially Grant Thornton, we really foster that, promote that through a hybrid workforce. You don't have to come in every day. You have to come in some. You certainly have to work with clients. And yet there's times where you can attend to other things. That's what I have enjoyed. But I would encourage the folks coming out, think about work-life integration, not necessarily just balance, for sure. So that would be my principal advice to him.
Amazing. So thank you so much, Varun, for your time. This is really, really
Yeah,
a pleasure.
it's great. Yeah.
It's an honor to be, doing this podcast with you. Thank you so much.